What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Jobbers and Goons, and big news for the channel. Coffee Shop Comics is no longer my second channel, as well as I'm not really doing Coffee Shop anymore. So all my content focus, 100%, will go towards this main channel, Jobbers and Goons. So all of my energy and time is going towards the channel in terms of what I do for YouTube. Big W for you guys. I'm also going to be making more things common, like my comic book reviews, battles, Goon series, Jobber series, all these things, big part of the upcoming year. If you are not subscribed, do so. That would be amazing. We're almost to 20K, and I would love to break that and keep on going as we grow as a channel, as well as join the Discord if you haven't already. We're at like 740 members. And looking forward to seeing a bunch of you join up, talk comics, play games, do giveaways and prizes, all that. It's going to be fun. But anyways, getting back to this, what's the topic at hand? This is going to be a dive into a cosmology. Now, I do sincerely believe this cosmology scaling / the stance taken on its scaling is kind of in flux. Like, people have differing opinions on how strong this verse actually is, how strong the main character Spawn is. And while they might say, you know, the high tier Spawns win against certain characters, they won't really go into detail about how strong he is or how the cosmology actually scales. As well as I've seen some people say it's not even outerversal or it doesn't have any arguments or anything of that nature. So I definitely want to address that today, kind of get that out of the way. And if you are a fan of Spawn, make sure to smash this like button. 300 likes and I will do another Spawn related video. But getting into this, I hope you guys enjoy. Buckle up. We're going to explore the Spawn cosmology, and I'm going to explain why I think it's a lot stronger than most people imagine. Now, first layer to talk about the living universe. This is something we can kind of safely list at 4D. This is the main time space that Spawn hangs out in. This is what the Hellspawn and the other demons from different planes of existence refer to as the living universe. It would just simply consist of the material universe, and while yes, it might be infinite in nature in respect to its own dimensionality, it's not infinite to several layers above it. So it is the first layer we're covering. And I would say high end probably for that would be Infinite 4D. Definitely is a time space confirmed though. Next is the second layer we're traveling to, which is the multiverse. Now, this is interesting because it can be interpreted in a few ways and it can get kind of spicy. Now, this multiverse consists of at least several other timelines, which would include one creation or universe, depending how you want to interpret it, that is consisting of God and Satan battling endlessly that were from the prior existence. So there's that to keep in mind for high tier scaling for just the multiverse. Now, on top of the other parallel dimensions / universes, even multiverses we know exist due to Spawn's actions in God form, there's also several other crossovers to consider. For example, Spawn has crossed over with Batman before, hung out with him, gone to his verse, vice versa, as well as crossovers with things like Invincible. So there's several materials you could also argue would be within the multiverse, as well as things like it was blatantly drawn Hulk, Superman, Wonder Woman, stuff like that were being blown up by Spawn early on in the story. You can argue there's just several ties and parallel universes and dimensions. Can argue the multiverse layer to be a range from multiversal to hyperversal. If you're super liberal with it, you could say this tier would be like outerversal or baseline outer. And you could get a little spicier due to Marvel and DC, but I don't think that's very genuine. So I would say multi to hyper for the multiversal layer. Now, it's important to note before we begin our journey to the next layer, there is a layer here to note that you could possibly connotate between the different layers, and this would be the realms beyond life, or the living universe, how you want to interpret it, basically beyond the multiverse or existence. These types of realms and the layers that would precede them, leading into them, are stated unimaginable and beyond anything mortals could conceive of, which would include things like math, logic, and vice versa. These realms should be arguable outer and outer safely. Now, worst case, if you don't think there's any kind of layering between here and the following realms, you could argue at the bare minimum from here on out, everything's going to be outer. So for those that are big fans of outerversal scaling, smash the like button, as well as you kind of know in terms of the spawn scaling, where you could argue that in the layers of the cosmology. Now, kind of following up on the next, we have the realm of limbo, which, as I stated before this, should be at least outerversal at this point. This realm is unique because it contains undecided souls. These souls could be anything in the range of fallen angels who were cast out to other spiritual outcasts who, for one reason or another, are not within the confines of heaven nor hell. You could possibly argue this as being heaven or hell tier, given that it contains souls from both, but you could also argue it is kind of seen narratively as below them, as they kind of cast like garbage to limbo. So you could go for either. Regardless, this would be outerversal in nature and an interesting aspect to the verse and its cosmology. Next layer we are going to discuss and explore is hell. Now, this realm is interesting because not only is it obviously outerversal, it also has outerversal layers within it, or layers within itself that extend the outerversal nature. Now, there are layers of hell beyond outerversal. These are some lower layers that, first of all, just by proxy being this high in the cosmology, it's already outerversal. But they also contain things like meta-concepts and ideas. This, of course, meaning concepts that predate concepts or the archetypal nature beyond all things like numbers, logic, math, dimensions, all that. Given these principles and properties and archetypal concepts are contained and received within the lower levels of hell / not even the highest levels, that's insane given we know it's a layered conceptual hell with many layers to it scaling above. So heaven as well would kind of count to this tier, as both of them are kind of relative in nature, and we know that God and Satan can fight endlessly. So it is arguable that they're about the same range or tier of power, which is outer and also has outerversal layers within itself. Next tier to talk about and to explore is the overlap. Now, how strong is the overlap? Me personally, I think it's obviously well into outerversal. This layer contains the birthplace of ideas, magic, concepts, and other insanely high-tier archetypal properties. Given it even predates mythology, spiritualism, and connects all realms, you could argue this insanely high. You could say it's well into outer, from mid to high outerversal, just given it literally predates all things, including like stories, narratives, myths, religions, all these things. It just completely predates them and encompasses all of that. The overlap is an insanely overpowered aspect of the cosmology that, in my opinion, raises its plausibility as a super strong cosmos and is very important for the scaling. So definitely had to include this layer here. Now next, this is another one of those layers that could be argued a possible layer within the mythos. This would be the creation verse. Now this would be mid to high outer in terms of if it exists as a layer. Me personally, I do think it is, so I do think it's worth mentioning. It can be implied and argued that the creation god and Satan were placed in are completely separate creations. And you can argue that a replica Heaven and Hell with their endless war were included. This would be possibly another creation entirely. So basically, you could argue the replica that God and Satan were placed in were basically scaling up to this point, and just made into a completely other timeline, which is far higher in scaling than just a normal timeline. Arguing this as a layer is interesting. Do you need it for this verse to be super strong? No. But I think it's interesting to talk about, and I do feel like you can definitely argue the creation God and Satan were put into could scale mid to high outer as well, and would be an insane aspect to the multiverse. Next, to talk about is kind of the final layer, so make sure to smash the like button if you haven't already. This would be beyond creation in the cosmology. That's what I'm going to call it, beyond creation. This would be mid to high outer, depending on how you interpret prior layers, but this is a pretty easy layer to argue for in terms of being the last layer here or above the ones prior. Like I said, this layer or beyond creation would be beyond all things listed prior. This would include the likes of Mother or Man of Miracles, the creator of the image verse itself. This resides above all creations. Simplify it to those that are kind of familiarizing themselves for the first time with this verse. Consider this like a equivalent to where a one above all or presence would reside, kind of looking over the mythos. And that's what this realm would be. We know Spawn got to spend some time here hanging out with Man of Miracles or Mother and planning the creation of another creation. But regardless, this realm or hypothetical realm would be mid to high outer, probably, if you ask me, high outer, and would be where the strongest characters in the mythos exist. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this Spawn Cosmology video in the comment section down below, as well as join my Discord so we can talk about Spawn and how it scales, as well as different battles. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see your favorite content on the channel, hit me up to discuss prices on Discord, as well as you could simply just join the giveaways in the Discord and win a free video that way. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons, and I will see you all later. Peace.